Hey everyone, I'm Fozzie or Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How are you doing today, Will?
I'm doing great, Cam, and I'm sure you would agree with me on this. I think we're excited for every episode of the podcast that we do, but I think there are certain ones that feel just a little extra special because of what we're going to be talking about on them, and this is
100%.
certainly one of those ones. So I'm doing just extraordinary. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic today. And, last episode was a Stranger Things episode because we recorded that and released it a half hour before the newest season of Stranger Things. The first half of the new season of Stranger Things was released. So the first time we've gotten to see the show in years. So it's only fitting that this episode, a week delayed, but it's here nonetheless. It's only fitting that this episode is a complete and total just review of these first four episodes. And I mean, how could we not? Not only is this one of the most popular shows of all time, popular doesn't always mean good, but this has maintained itself as being, one of the best shows I've seen in my life. I am very attached to all the characters, as I said before. All the storylines I'm fascinated by, and for me, just kind of diving into my review here, for me that continues with season five. I don't think there's any going down. There's nothing. There's nothing. There's no dip in quality like we saw in Cobra Kai season six. In my opinion, I was happy with every decision that was made. Um, we theorized some things, and some of them happened, which we'll get into a little bit later. But some of them didn't, which I was happy about, which I'll also get into later. This is just kind of I'm trying to give an overall general consensus right now, Um, but I was really happy with this. I was impressed with how they balanced every story. I mean, you had a lot going on. You had the Max stuff, which was kind of that was kind of woven into the Holly stuff. Um, so that kind of makes sense. But you had that stuff. You had the Wheeler House stuff that you're focusing on. You have you get different characters who are bonding together. You got Hopper and Eleven. You got Steven and Dustin who are kind of arguing. You got Jonathan, Nancy, and Steve who are all kind of butting heads. You got all four of them together and they have their own group dynamic. And then you got Joyce and Hopper. You got Will and Robin. There's a lot going on here. Mike and Eleven. Mike and Will. It's here. Uh, Max and Lucas. It's everywhere. I mean, there's just so much going on, and I think so far it continues to arguably even more is going on than last season, and it balances it all very well. I think I'm really impressed with how the Duffers are able to write and direct in a way that makes us get a firm grasp on something that's just so broad, and that how there's so many moving pieces, yet we still are able to understand and kind of still feel what these characters are feeling despite there being so many of them. But yeah, overall, I was a really big fan of these four episodes. In my opinion, it's just a really strong continuation of season four. Same quality level as season four, I'd say. And that being my favorite or second favorite season of the show means it's a good thing. That's a good thing to be on par with season four. Um, and I'm sure it's only going to get more epic from here. There are more things I'd like to touch on, but for now, I just want to say I give this a really high rating so far. I'm loving the show. But Will, what's your general consensus right now?
Yeah, so that there are so many different things that I could say about this season so far, but I want to
Yeah.
start by saying that the continued longevity of this show's ability to stay in the public spotlight is just amazing to me because I feel like there are certain shows when they've been around for so long they can kind of overstay their welcome, and that was my worry. I mean, I was sure, of course, I thought Stranger Things season five would get strong viewership, but I was thinking
Yeah.
it's been the show's been gone for so long. Is there going to be a pull toward it, like there was in the past? I had doubts about that, and yet I think somehow, some way, probably because the fans who have already been into the show are continuing to watch it, and then new fans are probably coming along and discovering the
I know
show
people who are
and
starting to
starting
watch
to
Stranger
watch
Things
it.
for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised to hear that because Stranger Things is the first show to have every single season in the Netflix top 10. And not just have every single season of the show in the Netflix top 10 for 1 week, but for 3 straight weeks. That
That's
is
crazy.
unheard of.
It's
In
unreal.
the top 10 Netflix shows currently, half of them are Stranger Things seasons. That is unbelievable. So just the continued staying power of this show's ability to maintain in the public spotlight is amazing to me because right when I thought the show had been gone for long enough to where it might have overstayed its welcome, here it is back, and I would say it's somehow gotten even bigger, which is just unbelievable to say considering how popular it already was. And then in terms of the quality of the episodes themselves, I feel like Cobra Kai is a great show to compare it to because Cobra Kai just had its final season and this is Stranger Things' final season. I would describe so far Stranger Things season 5 as a way, 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 way better version of Cobra Kai season 6 for these
Oh,
exact reasons.
100%.
Cobra Kai season 6 was trying to give everybody their moment and trying to give everybody a storyline. And it just didn't work out for them because even though I thought they kind of stopped doing that in part 3, they did it for 10 straight episodes
Yeah.
in parts 1 and 2, and it just resulted in a lot of storylines that I thought were bad and unnecessary and brought back rivalries between characters that I thought just didn't need to exist anymore. So that was something that downgraded Cobra Kai's final season. Let's take a look at Stranger Things. Was Stranger Things trying to give every character a storyline in the first 4 episodes? Yes. Did the pacing feel a bit faster to me and kind of moving a bit faster along, going from thing to thing as the other seasons? Yes. So similarly to Cobra Kai's final season, do I think it puts it slightly lower in quality than the other seasons for those 2 reasons? Yes, but unlike Cobra Kai, they've still, in my opinion, been able to make a highly engaging final season, even if those couple things make it just slightly worse to me than the first 4. And just what I give them so much credit for is they're trying to give every character a storyline, but unlike Cobra Kai, they're giving all of their characters good storylines and
Yeah.
compelling storylines. And instead of some of the silly storylines I thought Cobra Kai gave some of its characters in season 6. So, like, I would like if there is such a thing as like a great B tier season of a show, that's what I'd say Stranger Things season 5 has been so far. Even if they're trying to give everybody their moment and the pacing feeling a bit faster drags it a bit down from the others to me, I still thoroughly enjoyed it because they just had so much compelling stuff still going on. And one of the biggest things I give this show credit for continuing to do is they just continue to have the ability to surprise you as an audience. I was thinking, well, all right, like I assumed Max would come out of her coma at
Yeah,
some point,
somehow.
but I was
Yeah.
thinking, oh, maybe they'll wait till like the second to last episode of the season and then they'll bring her back. But no, they've taken the Max storyline in a direction that I never saw coming, and I would have never expected them to have Max show up like that the way she did at the end of episode 3. So I thought that was fantastic. And then the Will Byers scene to close off volume 1, that was another example of them being so good at surprises because what I was thinking was, okay, season 5 is split into 3 parts, or I guess 3 volumes as they're calling it. So I assumed, okay, volume 3 will end on a triumphant note where they've defeated Vecna, and maybe somebody had to sacrifice themselves to do so, but they've defeated Vecna, and everybody can live happily ever after. I assumed volume 3 would end on a triumphant note, but I assumed, okay, volume 1 and volume 2 were going to end on some cliffhanger with Vecna on top and all these reasons to be concerned about the characters. I just assumed that's how they were going to structure the season. So when I saw what they were doing with Will at the end of episode 4, I was like, "Up, is he about to get possessed here? And is this the cliffhanger note that they're going to end the story? That they're going to end volume 1 on?" And yet, no, they don't do that. They give that character a total hero moment, and they end volume 1 on an absolute triumphant, joyous note, even though there's still 4 episodes to go. So their ability to surprise the audience continues to impress me so much. And then one final note while we're on the topic of Will is what I was so impressed by that with what they're able to do with that character this season is when I was reading interviews with Noah Schnapp and different cast members ahead of the season, the 2 biggest things I saw Noah Schnapp say this season was going to explore is I would see him say it's going to dive into Will's sexuality and it's going to dive into his connection to Vecna. And I was thinking, okay, those are 2 really compelling storylines, but they're 2 storylines that are totally separate from each other. So are they going to be able to fit in both of those storylines with that character in the same season? And yet I felt they were able to intertwine those 2 storylines with that character in a way that worked so well to where Will, coming to terms with all parts of himself, including his sexuality, was all able to build up to that moment where he gets powers at the end. So I just thought when they had 2 such separate storylines with Will and the fact that they're able to find a way to merge them together so well, I just think the Duffer Brothers continue to prove their genius with stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, Will. And I just want to go back to the pacing that you mentioned. I honestly didn't have an issue with the pacing. The way I saw it was that they have to get right into it. The Duffers even said
Yeah.
it. They've set up everything. Season 4, in a way, I mean, obviously it was fast paced to a point, but in a way, it was set up for this season, and it's all led to this. So it does make sense to me that this season would have a faster pace. They'd spend less time setting everything up because we've known these characters for so long, and we had, especially last season, to really do its job in setting this whole story up. I think that was the job of last season. Um, in terms of Will Byers, in terms of the direction they took his character, that's something I definitely want to touch on. I didn't see that coming at all. I did not expect that to happen. That it really my jaw dropping. It's rare that with spoilers you don't get crazy twists as much anymore. Just for me, I haven't had like a crazy twist like that in a while. I was shocked. I figured something would happen to Will, like you said. Like we figured something would. We saw him in the trailers. The main theory, the running theory I had, and I guess it's still kind of a possibility, is that he's gonna get possessed. That was my main thing. Yeah, he did not. He didn't really. Did he kind of get possessed? Like kind
I
of,
guess you
because
kind of, I guess, yeah. I mean, Vecna was in control of him there for that second when he lifted him off the ground and brought him up to him.
Yeah, I think that, but like you see him use his powers, I'm more talking, and
Right,
he just seems to be. I mean, he's in control, but 11 when I guess the difference also said that his powers are different than 11's.
right,
But I mean, you see him use his powers. Uh, he's like his eyes are rolled back into his head. It kind of looks like he's in less control of it. So
right.
I don't know. I'm sure they'll touch on that. Um, so yeah, definitely didn't expect that. Thought Lucas was gonna die in there after getting slashed. I thought someone was gonna die. Oh, you know what I was really worried about, Will? Um, Vecna walks out the entrance. Joyce is hovered over Will, and Vecna menacingly is walking over. Joyce stands up, says, "Hey, stay away, stay away." I was very worried that he was just going to kill Joyce. But he doesn't kill Joyce. And you know what's crazy to think about? They went to school together. They went to high school together. We know that because of the school play thing that we saw in the Max part of the season. That's crazy to think about. So Vecna knows who Joyce is. They were classmates. They did drama club together. That's just ridiculous to think about. And I wonder if that's them having a history together. I wonder if that's kind of gonna come into play at some point. I definitely be interested to see that. Um, one character I was a little confused by this season that I also want to touch on is Murray. He's not playing as big a role as he did last season, but it's also kind of a good thing. I think too much of his character can get a little annoying, but I also like seeing this character. He's helpful. He's very helpful to the story. You know, he always, especially in Russia, he always knew something and did something to help them. And I guess in a way he's doing that. I mean, not in a way, he is doing that now. He's just in the show less. So I'm kind of not not saying I'm not liking what they're doing with this guy. I'm just kind of confused by what their goal is right now with this character. As far as I know, he's one of the higher paid cast members right now, and I'm interested to see why. You know, um, and one more thing I want to mention, Will, is before we kind of get into some theories, um, your that the original date announcement teaser, right? That shot at the end of the trailer with Will yelling "Run." That hasn't happened yet.
No.
That has me worried. What could that what could it be? What could he be yelling run about? What could that even involve? I don't even I am trying to wrap my brain around it, you know? Um it's just it's a little it's making me a little bit nervous. And I mean, in that scene he seems to be at the spot where he got his powers, that
Yeah.
military confinement near the opening. That seems to be where it is. So I just don't know, and I mean I'm very interested for sure to see what happens there. Um, one question I have for you, Will, are you liking what they're doing with Dustin this season?
Uh yes, I am liking what they're doing with Dustin this season from the standpoint of it would make sense that after losing Eddie, somebody he was really close with, that that would be a character who would not be at the top of his game or or could be in a more vulnerable state after going through a tremendous loss like that. So I do like what they've been doing with his character this season, but I would say there are more storylines that compel me more this season than his. I would say I'm really like just I would say the Will and Max storylines are the ones that are drawing me in the most right now. I just think those two characters connections to Vecna are just really riveting. So I do like the Dustin storyline, but I would say I'm much more riveted by, for instance, Will and Max's storylines than his.
Yeah, I definitely think so, and I think we are eventually gonna be more into his character. I think we're gonna be a little bit more compelled just because we had all this setup for him. I mean, think about it. We didn't like. I'm trying to think here. We never got scenes of characters really being alone and reflecting. When you really think about it, the only character who we've seen alone is Dustin, you know? He's the only one who's had kind of his own story with the bullies, with Eddie, and that internal conflict that he's dealing with. Um, so yeah, I think he's definitely going to end up playing an emotional part of this story, and I think they definitely have stuff in store for him because of that, you know. But I'm interested for sure, and I do like what they're doing with his character. Um, but they have to do just a little bit more to keep me hooked. One thing we talked about last episode, Will, and when we were talking about theories, will 8 return? She returned. I mean, how do you, I don't know. How do you feel about this?
I mean, I think it's a bold move by the Duffer Brothers from the standpoint of they're bringing back a character from the least popular episode of the show. I think that's always a risky thing to do, and yet I
Definitely.
also feel that that character was in a position to where there was more story to be told with that character, and it could be a bit weird if they bring her in for that one episode and then never bring her back again. So I think it's a risky move bringing her back, but I just have so much faith in the Duffer Brothers and that they know what to do with their storylines that I have a feeling there's going to be something good in store for that character. Will it be as riveting as Will and Max's storylines are right now? I have a hard time believing that, but I definitely think it'll be good because I have faith in the. I still have high faith in the Duffer Brothers' ability to create compelling storylines for characters.
I do as well. And if you look at this episode, the lost sister here, you look at the credits. Um, the Duffers weren't really involved in that episode. I mean, obviously they were there. They wrote the show, but it seems that there were other people more involved. The director, Rebecca Thomas, has only directed one episode of Stranger Things. It was that episode. She is not returning. She's not even remotely involved with this show. I think a change in writing, change of writing perspective, more control, I guess, from the Duffers. Not saying that they didn't have control, but you get what I'm saying. More involvement from the Duffers. I think that will very much help with her character and the direction they want to take her. And I have such confidence in the Duffers that I just don't think they would have brought her back if they didn't have a solid plan for what they wanted to do with this character. Um, so yeah, I'm intrigued to say the least. I think she'll end up playing a major role. I don't see how she wouldn't. I have my hopes up. I can see it working out, just mainly because of the Duffers being more involved in her character now. Um, it's clear that they didn't have the control that they needed to have on that Lost Sister episode. And one thing I was really intrigued with this season is the use of Holly Wheeler. Another prediction we got right. I think everyone got this right. It was the vanishing of Holly Wheeler. They kind of did a bad job keeping that secret. Um, I'm liking what they're doing with her character. It's really fun. I think some of those scenes are really cool. They kind of give me throwback 80s movie type vibes. Um, Especially with the music montage. I thought that was a really sweet montage. I think she's a good character now. I think her story's interesting, and I really like the human Vecna, the Henry Creel stuff that we're seeing. I'm very intrigued of the why he's not able to enter the cave that Max is in. I've heard people say that it could be because he got his powers in the cave, which was shown, I guess, in the Stranger Things play that is on Broadway currently, which I guess honestly really connects to the show. There's a lot of stuff in that that also directly goes to the show, which is kind of weird, but I don't know, I kind of like that they're doing that. Um, so that's what people have been saying about why he's afraid to go into Max's cave. But I think that's really cool how they're in his head. It was a cool little almost I don't know, Truman Show, WandaVision type of situation where we didn't know where we were, you know? We kind of were confused because it was just a normal thing. We didn't know what was outside of we didn't know what was in the woods. We didn't know this. We didn't know that. So that was awesome. I was stunned when Max returned. I can't believe they brought her back in that way, and I really like how these characters are being put together. Um, yeah, so a lot of kind of, I don't want to say random things, but a lot of like looser ends from Stranger Things are being brought back. You got Eight, you got Ted, and what's Mrs. Wheeler's first name?
Karen, right?
Yeah, Karen. Ted and Karen Wheeler being kind of real people again. Holly being a character. You got all of that kind of just coming back and just tying all of these loose ends, which is something I was kind of worried that the Duffers wouldn't be able to do. But it looks like they're tying all the loose ends. Um, but I'm gonna say I'd like to give theories now, Will, and right off the bat, I think my big theory, something I've heard circulating online, um, and the more you hear about it, and the more you look into it, the more you think it's gonna be true, and that's the Mind Flayer is actually what's behind this all. There's a lot of evidence backing it up, and you can look at some cast interviews that kind of slip up from time to time. Um, I think that's definitely my prominent theory at the moment. I would not be surprised if we find out that it is the Mind Flayer who's responsible for everything. Do you have any theories for the future of the show? Well,
One thing that I would be curious to know is Will's powers definitely seem to be coming from his connection to Vecna. If he didn't
yeah.
have this connection to Vecna that he has, he in all likelihood would not have these powers that he's gotten. So, I I think they'll, you know, it seems like they'll probably stick to Will being the only character who gets new powers, but it does make me think if Will's connection to Vecna gave him these powers, then could a character like Max or a character like Holly, who also have these connections to Vecna, be able to have the type of powers that Will is able to have due to his connection to Vecna. So my guess is that they'll probably keep it to just Will having powers, because if you end up giving a whole bunch of people powers, then I
Yeah.
feel like kind of the poignancy of it just being Will is kind of taken away. But that was one thing that I thought of, because I was like, oh, if Will's connection to Vecna gave him these powers, then could other people who have connections to Vecna like Max also be able to summon the powers that Will was able to discover this season?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing. And when Max wakes up, I was just thinking when you brought her up, Max is blind. I was thinking that might have to play into something, might give her some sort of power to work around that. I don't know, but she did get blinded, which is kind of crazy to think about. Um, yeah, so I'm interested to see how that will play in. Um, Next episode, Christmas, an hour and 43 minutes long. it's either going to be a really fun Christmas or a really depressing Christmas because who knows, maybe your favorite character is going to die. So keep that in mind, everyone on Christmas morning. But with that, that wraps up this episode of the Everything Podcast. Thank you all for watching a review of Stranger Things' first four episodes. I was really, really impressed by this season so far. Um, just amazed that they've been able to continue this streak of consistently putting out really high quality television and just continuing to make us care about these characters in a way that I just haven't felt ever. I haven't cared about characters like I do in this show. Um, but yeah, just amazing stuff. But yeah, thank you all very much for watching this episode of the Everything Podcast. We'll see you next time.